Hi there, English 101 students. This is your professor, Michael Bloomingberg, and I want to take this opportunity to welcome you to a new week in English 101 and a brand new module. It's entitled Pre-Writing and Reading to Writing Process. And we're going to be in this module for the next 2 weeks. We've only been in the first module, of course, so far to start the semester. So I'm excited to be able to jump in, and in particular this week, to work with you through the first reading of the semester and to talk a little bit about Stanley Milgram and the Perils of Obedience, easy for me to say, and to kind of use this as a springboard to discussing the quiz and discussion board assignment due this week. So to begin things, I want to just make it clear that I'm not really going to reference any particular due dates because I use this video many times through the semesters. I do update every now and then, but I'll be using this video for at least maybe 2 or 3 semesters. So I would just generically state that your discussion and quiz, well, they're all going to be due this upcoming Sunday, so just check your date appropriately. But I would encourage you to begin with the module overview. And it is very important to remember that we do take things 1 week at a time. So when you scroll down, you can see what this module is meant to represent in terms of why it matters, competencies that it correlates with, and module activities. Now, we're just focusing on the week 3 activities. I'll make a whole separate video next week for week 4, so please note that. Check that out as you need to, and then you could click the week 3 folder. And when you do, what you will notice first is that you have the Stanley Milgram Perils of Obedience PDF. So when you click that, it will open up, and you'll need to click to open up the PDF. This is sort of the flip side of having no textbook. I did make a copy of this from my own personal textbook, and we are not breaking copyright laws. We have the ability to do that up to 20% of the text. We can do that without breaking copyrights. But I want to emphasize to you that the actual reading begins on the bottom of page 3 of the PDF packet. You'll see the original page numbers are listed, so you'll see 167 as far as the original text is concerned. And then the article, and I apologize, it does print out a little, it's a little slanted on one of the pages, it being the text. And then as you read down, you will read the article, and you could stop when you get to the review questions, which I believe in the original text is page 182. So again, that's 167 to 182 in the original text. And if you're looking at the PDF file, that's going to be pages 3 through 11 in the actual PDF packet. Now, you do not have to do the review questions, so no need to do that. But I would encourage you to read it carefully and take your own notes as you're reading. Now, you might ask yourself, what should I really be taking note of? Many of you may be taking a reading class, like a 185, for example, that we offer through Somerset Community. But I would encourage you to just, if nothing else, do a check-in with yourself every few paragraphs. Stop, and in your own notebook, see if you can record the main ideas that Milgram is expressing. Once you figure out that this experiment is designed to be one thing, but it ends up, the reality of it is something else entirely. And what Milgram's really looking to see is how far people will go to obey authority, even when it's corrupt authority. Then I think you'll be in pretty good shape. Now, I have presented notes for you as well. And when you look at the notes, I've given you a photograph there of Stanley Milgram, who was born in 1933 and died in 1984. Most widely known for the shock experiments that are documented in the reading this week, but a highly educated fellow. So he earned a PhD from Harvard. You'll read that he actually was a professor at Yale University, which is where the first series of these experiments were conducted. Now, further down, I have some questions, and you do not have to submit these questions. I'm not looking to collect them, so you're not submitting them online. But I think if you can answer these questions, then you're going to go an awful long ways towards enhancing your understanding of the article. So what was Milgram's role in the experiment? And Milgram does have a role in it. Funding was an issue when this experiment was first conducted in 1963. But as you read, Milgram was oftentimes very hands-on as, see if you could follow that. Then there's a teacher and a learner role in the experiment. So what was their respective roles? And I'll give you a hint. One of these roles, the person is not really aware of what the true nature of the experiment's all about. And the other one is actually an actor. So see if you can figure that out. Also referenced in the article is a fellow by the name of Adolf Eichmann. Now, Eichmann is a major historical figure. You might have learned something about Eichmann if you studied World War II in a history class at some point. But if you don't know who Eichmann is, do a Google search, but beware that it's kind of a dark point. It's an extremely dark point in history when you think about World War II and the atrocities that were committed by the Nazi regime during that time. So I would be careful with the visuals. I don't want to be triggering for anyone. But if you just do a Google search and maybe look at Wikipedia on Eichmann, that would be a good place to start. Who is Prosy, Braverman, and Botta? These are all people who are playing roles in the experiment. Once Milgram moves the experiment out of Yale and into a more general public. What is the overall obedience rate? You can note that for both Yale University and when the experiments moved out of Yale. You might note that as well. And that is in the article, but you're going to have to look pretty carefully at that. We'll talk about it. And what is Milgram's thesis? Thesis just means his main idea that he's looking to stress in the article. See if you can figure that out. So again, just in your own notebook, jot these questions down and try to answer them, but you don't have to turn those in to me for any kind of grade. All right, please listen carefully. I don't want you to jump too far ahead. Read the article and the notes first and take your own notes. Make sure you understand what's happening. And then once you do, you can look at, I've linked this to the week 3 folder, the ABC News 2020 update. 2020 is an ABC News program. They did an update to the Milgram experiment in 2008. So feel free to click and check that out. And what you will find is you might note in particular how many men versus women were in the experiment. When it was first conducted in 1963, Milgram pretty much just used men for the experiment. But now we have both men and women. We have not only a greater representation of gender, but also a greater representation of different ethnicities and races. So check that out. And I think it'll shed a sort of a visual and modern update to the original series of experiments. Then when you've looked at all the material for this week, you do have a quiz. The quiz does correspond to Milgram. It is due Sunday. Now, the quiz is not timed, so don't worry about that. You do have 2 attempts, so if you don't score quite the way you wanted or you have a technical glitch, you can go back in and retry the quiz. In addition, the discussion board assignment for this week. So all of the assignments are due Sunday, but you're asked to take time to review the Milgram article in the ABC video, and then once you've done so, address the following. Did you find the experiment results surprising in both the article and the video? And you can kind of compare them. Do you think the results were more of a product of its time, the original series, which was in the early 60s? Or do you see it as just as relevant today? And that's especially true when you look at the 2008 update through ABC. Did anything in the ABC video catch your attention, what it, surprise you, catch you off guard, anything like that. You'll note in the video, there's also a reference to something called the McDonald's strip search scandal. I will note that that could be a little triggering for some. So there's nothing overtly, there's no overt, I'm not going to say violence because it is a little violent, but there's nothing that would violate civility code as far as that is concerned, but it could be triggering. So please note that as you watch, and note that accordingly. So your initial posting should be 100 words or more, and then you also are required to have 2 peer responses as well. If you have any questions as you're working, you can message me through email, which is the best way to contact me. And I will check in as well in the discussion as we go through the week and see how that's going and share as appropriate some of my own insights as well. So for grading this week, you're looking at the quiz and the discussion assignment, but I would like to really continue our discussion and really look at the Milgram experiments, both the 63 original run as well as the 2008 ABC News 2020 update. I want to especially make you aware of the importance of culture, and you'll note that in the Milgram, the 2020 update to the Milgram experiment, where we have different ethnicities, genders, and cultures. So I'm sort of planting the seed for next week, but we're going to talk about culture and why it's important to have an awareness of your culture. And this is an extreme example, but if you understand yourself, you're better able to understand the world at large, which is going to make you a stronger critical thinker. And by proxy, that will make you a stronger academic writer. All right, so that's the work for this week. I apologize. I know this week's video is a little bit longer, but I do hope you find it helpful. Feel free to email me if you have any questions whatsoever. Good luck with the quiz and the discussion board assignment this week. But that's going to wrap us up. We'll have a whole new video next week devoted to week 4, which will be the final week in this new module 2. Take care of yourself and have a great, great week.